All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here hanging out with one of two guys of RamRods Archery, and if you hear a bunch of noise in the back, that's the sound of the births of many awesome rods that are being made just right now. So don't mind that. But today, what we have is where's my bow? So right here is my brand new RX7, and he's going to give me a second master class on how to balance out my bow with the stabilizer with the help of the Mantis, and we're going to use data to actually stabilize the bow, so that way we're not just guessing it or going off by regular feel, although that is kind of important. But what's going to be the true test is seeing what the data actually shows us as far as that goes. We already have the bow kind of sort of set up, and the goal right now is, with this being my carbon bow, it's a little bit lighter than my my previous Ventum, and I kind of want to go with a lighter, shorter setup if I can. I'm not opposed to carrying extra weight if I have to, because my first bow that I had set up here was a little bit, it was longer and it was heavier, and it didn't bother me at all. I just wanted to try something different, so we're gonna get away with, right now, what do we have?
So we're gonna be starting off with a 8-inch on the front. We are attaching that with a straight QDC, no down angles yet. Stock amount of weight, 3 ounces. And then for the back bar, we're running this 6-inch race straight back with 3 ounces. Maybe we're like 2 degrees out, 2 degrees down, but basically running things in as tight and light and close to the bow as possible. And then we're gonna get a measurement with this setup and see where the data tells us to go next.
There we go.
All right, we got a score, 87.4.
Okay, the score, and you guys will see this on the screen here, my stability score is 87.4. As far as like nerd data collections type stuff, do you recommend at the minimum at least 2 shots or 3 to get like a, I guess what do you call it, a medium read or something like that?
I think 2 to 3 shots is a good minimum. If you're going less than 2, basically just a single reference point, you really don't know if that was just that shot or if you're getting something repeatable. I'd say get the same thing to happen at least twice, and then if you're just experimenting, I think it's fine to move on and try the next thing.
Shot number 2. All right, so let's read this. Come down. So I'm swinging. I'm not dipping a whole lot, but it looks like I am kind of swinging left and right. So what is that telling me?
Could be that the bow is overall a little bit on the light side.
Okay.
It can also be this is the first couple of shots you've done with this bow, period. There is a little bit of a time for your brain to sync up with what your bow's doing and actually start to understand how your bow wants to move. So I would say let's even give it another shot or 2 before we start to make any conclusions.
Okay.
And then we'll have a little more confidence if we can see some patterns.
Okay. Right off the bat, what I am noticing too is that because I've got a good amount of weight on the right side of the bow due to having the arrows in there, that on the draw I can tell that my bow is already like canting to the right. And I have to kind of sort. I mean, once I settle in, it's fine, but I prefer to just be able to start neutral rather than having to adjust right after the shot. So
yeah, ideally we're going to work you towards a balance where the bow, as soon as you draw back, is already leveling your bubble and you don't have to do work to keep it there.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to end up kicking that back bar out at least a little bit. So I will have you pay attention to what your bubble looks like it wants to do from the first point you hit full draw, see where it's at. And if you're going to have to correct the same direction multiple times, then that is going to tell us we probably want to adjust the center of gravity to the left a little bit to counteract for arrows and your mount and everything on the right side of the bow.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I'm definitely fighting to try to keep the bubble back to the center because it wants to keep leaning that way. So yeah, my bubble is leaning to the left.
Fair enough. We are seeing your stability score creep up a little bit, probably you getting a little bit more comfortable with this bow, kind of how it's set up now, so that is a good sign. But let's try moving your back bar out a little bit to the left. We'll maybe make a 5 or so degree adjustment, and then we'll take another measurement and see how you feel.
Okay.
We have the back bar at almost straight back towards you right now. It's just a degree or 2 out. We're going to go ahead and make an adjustment of roughly 5 degrees. Give it a little tweak out this way. And then we will do another measurement. And I think while we're at it, we're probably going to add a couple ounces to the back, get you to about 5 on the back and 3 on the front, and then see how you like that overall mass weight.
Yeah. And the general rule is usually a 2-to-1 for the most part as a basic guide, right?
That's a good basic starting point. We just went with everything stock out of the package initially. We didn't adjust for anything. Now that we have a couple measurements, we are going to add a little bit to the back and start to creep towards that 2-to-1 ratio and see how you like it. This is a solid, plain 4-ounce steel weight. 4 + 1, 5 on the back and 3 on the front.
The blender weight itself, for those of you that may not know, this is 1 ounce right here.
Yes, it's technically like 0.93, I think. So almost an ounce.
Okay.
We had to give up a little bit on the weight precision to get it to look just how we wanted.
Yeah, that looks awesome too. Look how sweet this thing is. I'm still feeling the same thing. It's not as bad as it was before, but I'm still having to fight the bubble because my bow wants to keep doing this. I'm exaggerating, of course. So I think we're gonna need to go further out and even more weight. At what point do you suggest that you just go with a longer bar?
I would say at the very least, if you're starting to get to like 40, 45 degrees out to where this is now going to start to be in the way, we can reduce how much we're going to kick that out, get the same center of gravity by just lengthening the bar or adding a little bit more weight. So I would say let's do one more adjustment to go out. If it's still not enough, then let's go with an 8-inch on the back. And quick rule of thumb people can remember is just like you always move your sight towards the arrow to counteract, make a sight adjustment. Always move your center of gravity left or right towards where the bubble's going. So for example, if my bubble's going to the left, that means my bow's tilted to the right, and I move my center of gravity towards the bubble to fix it.
Okay, very cool. Good tip. We go out, what, you think another 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15?
Let's go about another 5, see what that does for us, and if we're still having issues, let's go ahead and make this bad boy a little longer. Blender, 1 ounce, and a 4 for a total of 6.
Okay, 6 ounces in the back, still keeping it 3 in the front. So we're looking at 95.5. So my stability score went up about a point.
It jumped up a point with that last adjustment.
Yeah, so
but you knew right away you were still fighting the bubble more than you wanted.
Yeah.
So we went and adjusted right away.
So this bow in general is just balanced a lot better than my Ventum.
I think so.
Because I remember with my Ventum, like I kept like, I was getting a lot of vertical.
You were getting a lot of dropping out. And it was a heavy, it was definitely a heavier system overall.
Yeah.
Overall stability score looks
95, just about the same.
Yeah, looks about the same as the previous shot, but you're more comfortable with target acquisition on that shot, just getting everything right where you wanted it. All right, so we're seeing we have a good stability score. Overall, things are right where you want it now. We set out with a goal at the start of this little mini project here that we wanted something compact, we wanted something light, we wanted something stable. And we knew we wanted to use a front and back bar combo to do that. So that's what we have here. We kind of settled on about a 10 or 12 degree out, give or take a little bit. We don't have exact measurements, just a couple degrees down. And then that's a 6-inch bar with 6 ounces of weight. On the front, we're running 0 degree QDC, 8-inch bar with 3 ounces on the front. Just so happened, we ended up right on that 2-to-1 ratio. Now we're seeing that the system has just enough weight that you're stable, but we're keeping things pretty much as light and compact as we feel comfortable going, while still feeling confident that we have adequate balance and stability. So from here, if you wanted to add more to it, if you want to take that stability a little higher and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of weight or a little bit of maneuverability, we could go an inch or two longer on each of the bars with the same weight, or potentially adding a little bit more weight, because this is a pretty light kit overall, being that it's a carbon riser and we're only running 6 and 3, so it's definitely nothing crazy. Sometimes it is nice to basically see, is it getting better, is it getting better, is it getting better, and once you hit where it's worse or it's not improving, then we know that you've gotten all the gain you're going to get and you don't need to keep pushing further.
Yeah, and then you can scale back to where you want it.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, so let's do that next. And we're pretty close. This is pretty cool that this whole thing is happening really fast, because obviously this is our second go around, so it's easier now that we know what to expect.
Yep.
And but we are working with a slightly different system. So let's say, what do you think? Like 1 inch?
I think let's just add the next length up on both bars.
Okay.
So we're going to switch out the 8 for a 10 on the front and the 6 for an 8 on the back.
Okay.
We have 2 inches, 2-inch increments to play with here. So we're going to actually just start keeping the mass weight the same and just change the length and see if you love that, or if it feels about the same, or maybe it feels a little heavier and you want to lighten up the weight but take a little extra length.
Can we try that dampening, 4-ounce
Sure.
dampening weight on the back?
Let's do it.
All right, so so we're keeping it the same in the back as far as the weight goes. So it's still going to be 5, but we're going to have more features with the dampening weight. you tell us more about what it is and what it does?
Sure. So the damping weight is a stainless steel case that houses about 2.5 ounces of tungsten powder. That tungsten powder, at the moment that you're aiming, is doing nothing. It's clumping, sitting still, and just not affecting aim in any way. At the moment the shot breaks, though, the energy and shock coming through the riser is aggravating those particles and making them move around. And that movement is actually reducing vibration that you're going to feel and, most importantly, hear from your setup. That's going to give you a setup that feels super locked down and stable while you're aiming, but has a much more calm and toned down shot response. Now, I will say this is not going to do as much as throwing a big floppy rubber damper on there, but a lot of people don't want a giant rubber damper on their bow, or they don't want to feel like their weights are too decoupled. They like that feeling of connection through the system, and that is where the damping weight comes in to kind of fill that niche.
There's a term that I see or I hear quite a bit is like the dead in the hands feel. So that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And then ideally, if you could afford the weight, you would recommend getting another one in the front, one in the back, and obviously add some more in the back as needed.
Yeah, definitely. If you're using more than 4 ounces on each bar and you're trying to be as efficient as possible with your system and you got a little play money, then throwing a damping weight on both bars is going to make things feel really, really good.
Hang on one second here. We were just talking about how much cooler it looks with a slightly longer bar too, right?
And archery is mostly style.
Yeah, well, 100%. It makes you a better archer in general because you look better, so you feel better, right? Is that what the saying is? And then, of course, like one of the things we have to consider too is that I do hunt with my quiver on the the entire time. I've never done any tree stand stuff. I have hunted inside of a blind, but I keep all my stuff with me in here. So having that back bar, for me, it makes a huge difference, and I like the way that it feels having this on there. And even when I take all the arrows out, for whatever reason it is, it still feels more balanced with the back bar. So I personally like it even if I don't have my arrows inside of the quiver. Dude, that felt nice. That felt really, really nice. I actually like the balance on that a lot better. So all we do is just extend the bars. That's all we did. And I'm really liking the way that feels. Do we need to mess with this anymore? I mean, I feel like right now we're like pretty good. And then what's my
stability score was at 92.
Okay.
Since we just made a big jump on the length, I would say I would shoot it another time or two and see if that's repeated or not.
Okay, cool. Actually, that's a good point because I remember the last time I was here, it was any time that we made changes, my stability score went down a little bit because it was now whatever input and force or whatever at full draw I needed to put it in the bow to get it steady, it changed. And so that's a tip for you guys is anytime you do a new setup, it's good to shoot a few times, at least twice. On that last one, I did have to hold a little bit more because I was getting used to the way that the bow felt with the new length on the bars. So it makes sense that it went down just a little bit. So I think what was like 95 was like my average before.
You had a 95.5.
Okay.
That I think was your best so.
So I mean, I feel like right now too, like I'm kind of searching for the target. There's something about I think maybe the sight picture of like this darker target.
Yeah.
That's weirder for me to aim, where like the center was really easier for me to find.
Let's mix it up. Let's give you some different to aim at. Let's just aim for the center of this guy.
Okay.
Maybe that'll feel a little more natural.
All right, so for those of you that are doing this at home too, that's like one of the things that we have to pay attention to is like being aware of what it is that you are doing as the shooter. We've got Josh to make sure that I'm not freaking that jacked up and make sure that I'm staying as consistent as possible. And I did realize that like the very first few shots, because the bow was substantially lighter, that it was easy for me to be able to just draw, come down, and then just like basically just stop right on the center of the target. My arrow went a little too deep on one of the shots because it was going in the same hole, so I picked a different target. So that technically changed where my point of aim was going to be, and I felt like because of that I was searching for it, and so it was giving us a different reading off of the Mantis. So we swapped this thing out. Now we're going to shoot the center of this target, and then we'll see if that's going to make a difference or not. Or it just might be that the setup was just like we kind of passed that threshold, and then we got to dial it back just a little bit.
You definitely looked a lot more comfortable with that shot.
Yeah.
And we saw the score jumps up a little bit too.
Yeah. So the last score was a 90 something. You guys will see that on the screen. It was like 90 something %, and then now I bumped back up to 93.4. And there's something about I guess like center mass of a target. I don't know if that becomes from like my shooting background where I'm always looking for the center mass of everything. But that made it a lot easier for me to anchor, start at the very top, and then slowly lower it down. And then I was super comfortable holding the center, and I broke the shot. So taking a look at, yeah, so it came straight down. I swung past it just a little bit, but I recovered really fast, and it was kind of floating around on the center, and then the shot breaks.
But yeah, your last second of movement there was all very, very tight, and you made that shot a lot more comfortably. You took less time from anchor to executing the shot.
Okay.
And I think that clear target made it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, so I guess that's the other thing is the control is that you need to be able to make sure that you have a target that's like easy to find where you want to shoot, where the yellow jacket in the back is like a little busy, and so if you're trying to steer through that little tiny peak with your scope housing, it makes it harder to search for your target. So I'm feeling pretty good with it, man. I don't know what else there's anything that we need to do to this setup. Like, it feels really good, and then of course as I start to shoot it more, I can fine tune it a little bit more. That was fast.
Yeah, this was our second time doing it together, so we kind of have a little better process down, but basically we started with everything kind of in a neutral stock light position with the absolute minimum setup we knew we were comfortable starting with. And then from there we started to move the back bar out. We took care of some issues with cant to make that bubble level easier. And then we ended up adding a bit more weight to the back bar, so we ended up at a 2-to-1 ratio, which is, I think for a lot of people, you're not going to be too far off with that as a starting point. We did lengthen the system a little bit from the 6 and 8 to an 8 and a 10. We're still keeping things pretty compact overall, especially on this carbon riser. The stabilizer mount is pretty in tight towards the Archer. So this is nothing that's going to be unwieldy or in your way as you're spot and stalking or hiking through brush and things like that. But we got some data. We combined that with feedback from the Archer, and I think we have a system that's going to work really well with only little minor tweaks as we go from here.
And one last thing I forgot, I think maybe we didn't touch on a whole lot, is when we're looking at a stabilizer, what kind of performance are we looking at as far as like a person's pin flow or whatever it is?
Sure. So two things on that. Number one, when you get a very slow, small movement, but the bow feels a little hard to control, might be a little on the heavy side, right? If you're finding like it's a little of a smaller movement pattern, but things are a little jittery, you might be able to solve that through going a little bit heavier. So kind of use the way the bow's moving as a little bit of a hint as to what you may need to adjust to find that more comfortable movement pattern. And then also, if you don't have a Mantis and a bunch of high-tech tools to use to do your tuning, my recommendation is first get it to where your bubble wants to just sit naturally. So always move the center of gravity towards wherever the bubble is wanting to go. And then from there, kind of pay attention to, if I get my dot right in the middle, where does it want to move first? If it wants to drop down, you probably need to add some weight to the back, or you want to lighten up the whole system, and vice versa. If you're finding that it wants to dip up, you maybe add a little bit of weight to the whole system, or we add a little bit of weight to the front. And then just kind of move from there. Same thing with left and right. If your pin is wanting to drag over to the left, maybe we bring that back bar in a little bit, move that center of gravity closer to the center of the bow, and that's going to take care of that. Vice versa if it's going to the right. So just pay attention to where does the bow want to move. Can I encourage it to sit more nicely, naturally, by adjusting the center of gravity?
So that was super fast, so I'm glad that didn't take up too much of your time, because I know you're a super busy man. Let me get the focus on the handsome dude behind me. But that was a lot of fun. I learned so much. Every time I come out here to talk to these guys, they're a wealth of knowledge. They have a ton of experience, and they also collect not only data from their own experience as shooters, but also from other people that are shooting and winning all kinds of crazy championships, right? If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to send them in the comments. If you want to reach out to them directly, where can they find you guys?
RamRodsArchery.com or RamRods Archery on any social media platform. We love hearing from you guys, answering questions, and talking to archers, so let us know if we can help.
Yeah, and then you also have a whole hunting side as well, right?
Yep, we have a whole hunting side of the website now. We have that built out a little bit better, and we are working on building our hunting team. So if you are looking to join the RamRods hunting staff going into next year, check out our website this September, and we're going to have an application up there.
Very cool, dude. That's super exciting. All right, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
You guys are
Good to see you,
awesome,
Damon.
and yeah, likewise. So we got some more stuff planned in the future. Should we tell them what we're gonna do? We got some. Well, we'll keep it a secret. There's some more stuff going on later on in the future. Some really cool content. So we're looking forward to that.
Pay attention.
Yeah, but pay attention to that. But I'm looking forward to taking this bow into the season now. I'm super confident with how it's all set up, and it shoots really nice, and it bounces really well. Anyway, well, thanks so much, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.